Good morning and welcome to the UC Davis Executive Leadership Program information session. My name is Jennifer Keller. I'm the program director. We are thrilled that you are here to learn more about this prestigious leadership program and excited to share with you a little bit more details around the program. So with that, on this beautiful sunny summer morning, we're going to go ahead and get started. So as I said, my name's Jennifer Keller. I'm the program director for the Executive Leadership Program, and I'm the associate director for all of the leadership programs that we offer here at UC Davis Continuing Professional Education. And I'm joined by my colleague, Bridget. And Bridget, would you like to introduce yourself and your role with the program?
Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Bridget Zaragoza. I am the program manager for the Executive Leadership Program. I manage all enrollments. If you are enrolled in this, if you do enroll in this course, I'll be working with you prior to the class starting. Any pre-work assignments, anything related to any assessments or materials, I would be the one that will be communicating with you prior to the program starting and even after. So again, if you have any questions regarding enrollment, any questions about the program, please feel free to give me a call or email me, which on the screen there is my email and my phone number.
Thank you, Bridget. Thank you, Bridget. Bridget pretty much does it all with this program, so she is your main go-to. And before we kind of launch into the agenda, we'd like to find out who you are and who's on the line. So we are going to do that via a couple different polls. Our first poll that Bridget's going to launch asks you about your organization type. Tell us what type of organization you work for. Is it private sector, public sector, nonprofit, higher education, or other? We'll give it a few seconds for those to come in and find out who we have on the phone. How are those responses, Bridget?
Looking good. Looking good. There is 29% is private sector and corporate. We have 18% is nonprofit. Why don't I go ahead and share these results?
Great. Okay, we have quite the mix. So that's great. Thank you, Bridget, for sharing that. And our next poll is asking a little bit about your role. So what kind of role do you have in your organization? And once Bridget launches that, you'll see the options. Are you in a C-suite role, a senior manager, director, associate director or manager, or other? We'll give it a few seconds for those to come in. Gives us a little bit of a sense of who we're talking to today. Bridget, you want to share those?
There we go.
Great. Another mix and quite a few others. So we'll have to dig into that maybe a little bit later. So, all right. Well, thank you for taking just a minute to kind of share with us who you are. And with that, we're going to get started with our agenda. So we're going to cover 4 key areas today to help you learn more about this program. The first area we're going to talk about is why the UC Davis Executive Leadership Program. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of the value that you're going to receive in this program. The second section we're going to cover is what can I expect to learn and who are the instructors. So I'll spend a little bit of time reviewing the content in the program, and then we're very privileged to have one of our instructors, Diane Davidson, on with us today, who is going to give you a preview of her content in the Leading Organizational Change class. The third section is going to be on who can tell me about their experience in the program. We're very excited to have 2 of our alumni join us to really share their experience. Who better to learn more about the program than through our alumni? So when we get to that section, I'll introduce them. We have a few questions for them, and then we're going to actually open it up for you to be able to ask them any questions that you might have. And then finally, what if I still have questions? So we'll review any of the final logistics and then open the Q&A box for any questions. And I should mention throughout the program or this session, Bridget is monitoring the Q&A box. And so that you should find in your link in Zoom or bottom bar, if you kind of hover, there's a Q&A box. And at any time, if you have any questions, Bridget is actively monitoring that and will answer those real time. So let's get started with why the UC Davis Executive Leadership Program. This program is really designed for busy leaders. And in this format we have in the fall, we have it scheduled where you have a Thursday from 1:30 to 8. So you're really only missing a half day of work, as well as some personal time, we know. Dinner is included in that, and as our alumni may share, that has been one of the more valuable pieces of the program in terms of networking. That's where true deep relationships and connections are formed over the meal. And so that's just been a really great part of the program. So that's Thursdays, and then you come back the next Friday from 8:30 to 4, and you have lunch, and then parking, of course, is provided both days. So it's really scheduled for the knowing that you have busy, full lives, and being away from the office for, say, 5 days in a row or weeks can be really difficult. And so we have, you can see the program dates are spaced apart in this format through September, October, and November. And our location, we're going to talk about a little bit more at the end, but it is a convenient downtown Sacramento location right off the freeway. So it's really easy to get into and out of. There's not a lot of prep time that we ask of in between sessions. We typically have 1 to 2 articles that we ask you to read to really prime you for the learning. But other than that, there's not a lot of in-between work in the sessions. And it's really, like I said, designed to be practical so that the things that you learn are really, you're able to implement right away back at the job. A real value in this program is the 360-degree assessment. And we use the Leadership Practices Inventory 360-degree tool by Kouzes and Posner. And it's based on the 5 practices of exemplary leaders, as you see there on the screen. We really help you through this process. Both Bridget and I help you decide who should you select as your raters. And this is one of the most valuable parts of the program in your development, because this is where you're going to get real feedback from your peers, from your direct reports, and from your manager on how you're doing as a leader in these 5 areas. And then what we do is we pair this with one-to-one coaching, which I think that is one of the most helpful things related to the feedback, because oftentimes you receive feedback and it's kind of like, oh, what do I do with that? I don't know how to move forward. I know this about myself, or now I've learned this about myself, but you're kind of stuck in how to change. And we pair you with one of the 5 coaches you see here, myself included as one of those coaches, to really help you walk through and interpret, okay, so now I've got this feedback. What does this mean for me? And what do I do? And how can I change? And so you get 2 individualized one-to-one coaching sessions with your coach to help you through the assessment, and then also help you through the program in general. So the first coaching session is held right after you receive your feedback, and really helps you walk through anything that maybe stood out to you, really helps you focus on the positive things of your assessment, move forward in what you're doing well, and maybe some changes you can make in areas of growth. Then the second session is held towards the end of the program as kind of a final wrap up of, so what did you learn, and what do you want to do with what you learned, and how have you grown, and how can you take this back into your role as a leader? So the one-to-one coaching is really phenomenal. We have certified, all of our coaches are certified coaches and experts in their field. So that's why the UC Davis Executive Leadership Program, the 3 key value designed for you as a busy leader, includes the 360-degree assessment and the personalized individual 2 sessions of coaching. I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions, Bridget, in the Q&A on that first part. Hearing nothing, I'm going to go ahead and move to the second section. So the second section is, what can I expect to learn, and who are the instructors? So in this section, I'm going to talk a little bit about the program, and then I'm going to turn it over to our instructor who's on with us, Diane Davidson. So first, let's take a look at the program. So the program consists of 8 sessions, and those sessions are held either on the Thursday or the Friday. So you can see the first session, The Leader as Communicator, is taught by Dr. Paul Porter. And in this session, you really learn about leadership styles and a little bit about situational leadership, as well as then a chunk of the section on fierce conversations. And there's some practice around having fierce conversations, and what does that look like, and how can you really hold an effective conversation with someone that maybe there's some challenges with. Then we have the class Leadership Practices to Increase Effectiveness. This is taught by Sharon Huntsman. And this class is really the class that helps you with the 360 assessment. So this walks through those 5 practices that I had mentioned earlier. And then this is when you receive your assessment results and you have time in the class to read them, digest, as well as then learn, okay, what do all these items in this assessment mean? What are these 5 practices? So that class focuses completely on that assessment. Then we have Leading as a Coach, taught by Michelle Payne, who is also one of the coaches in the program. Michelle is a master certified coach and is in the top 1% around the world in her profession. She is amazing. And in this class, you learn about the kind of the coach approach behind being a leader, and how can you deliver direct communication in a way that is received well and moves people toward action. And she talks a lot about powerful questions and listening. So it's a really valuable class on that coach approach. And then Diane Davidson is Leading Change, and you're going to get, like I said, a preview of her content. And so I'm going to wait to introduce her in a minute when I give you her full bio. Then we have Leading Innovation by Christine Folk. And Christine worked for many years in the VSP Innovation Lab and has recently transitioned to Blue Cross Blue Shield. And she has tremendous amount of experience in project management and innovation. And she walks through great exercises, and one in particular that resonate with people is the 5 whys, and really digging to the root cause of the problems and challenges that you face in your organization. Then we have Leading with Emotional Intelligence by Mitchell Adler. And Mitchell is one of a renowned expert in emotional intelligence. He's a psychotherapist and owns his own practice. And we're really privileged to have him as part of this program because he doesn't teach very often and selects very specific people and organizations that he'll teach this course for, and we are one of them. And so we're very privileged to have him. And this is where you dive deep into emotions and how do you show up as a leader in your emotional self, and how do you react, and how do you become more aware of others' emotions as well as your own. Then we have Elizabeth Doty, who owns her own organization, Leadership Momentum, and she teaches a course on values, commitments, and organizational momentum. And her mantra, which I love and I've started spreading around my own organization, is fewer, better commitments. And so she really walks through a tool in how can you create true commitment in your organization by really focusing and narrowing in on, okay, what is it? What are the best commitments that we can make to move our organization forward, that momentum? And she also kind of does it from a values-based perspective. What are the organization's values? How do we align our commitments to those values and then drive forward as an organization? And then we wrap up the program with a real-life case study taught by Janice Thompson. And this is just a great opportunity to walk through a live case study that's practical and kind of ties it all together in the end. So that is, in a nutshell, the 8 sessions of the program. And I'm going to now turn this over to Diane, and I'm going to go ahead. I think we're going to turn my video off and turn her video on. And I'm going to go ahead and first introduce her by reading her bio, and then I'll turn it over to her to lead this section. So Diane lives in Roseville, and she's enjoyed supporting the development of individuals, leaders, and teams for the past 30 years through public speaking, professional training, and coaching. Diane, prior to her consulting career, so she owns her own consulting firm. Prior to that, she was a leader in the commercial production, banking, and healthcare industries, where she was responsible for program development, curriculum design, securing funding, and facilitating training on topics such as change leadership, employee engagement, sales, and customer service. She is especially gifted and effective as a facilitator and coach, where her knowledge of adult learning allows her to create relevant and meaningful education environment. Diane is also a professional entertainer, producer, and recording artist. As a seasonal global performer, she really does have a specialized approach as an instructor that's very engaging, interactive, and entertaining. Diane's passion shines through in all that she does, and we are so thrilled to have her part of this program, and even more thrilled to have her here today for this content section. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Diane.
Thank you, Jennifer. And thank you for the overview of the program. You know, one of the things I'm so impressed with is how comprehensive this program is and what great instructors and coaches you have to support the participants of the program. And I just want to thank you for inviting me today to share a little bit about the program that I'm going to be delivering. And you know, one of the things that I get asked when people ask me, what can you expect from the program, is that at the end of the program, it seems like all the participants say, this was an amazing thing to go through. It was so wonderful to work with people from other industries and really get to know that we're all facing the same things. We're experiencing the same challenges. And it's so comforting to hear from others what we're going through, and then to get the skills to learn how to deal with these challenges more effectively with people from other industries is also really helpful. So the one thing I hear is, it was a great program. I wish I wouldn't have delayed my enrollment. I wish I would have gotten it sooner in my career. So whether you're managing your own business, if you're a manager, a director, a senior executive, we're facing change more and more. And they actually say that our time right now, we have more changes coming our way than we ever have in our history. So I was sitting in an executive coaching session the other day, and the team of 6 were talking about a change that they were implementing. And there was a little bit of frustration that started coming up between the members of the team. And one person said, you know, it's just going to take time. And the other executive says, but we don't have that kind of time. Have you felt like that before? Like you've been tasked with making lots of changes, you know, not just one. It can often feel like you're spinning plates on a stick. You know, you get one plate spinning and you keep it going, and then you have another plate you got to start spinning, and then you have to come back to the other. The change is just constant, and it's ongoing, and it's multiple. So what we need to do is really learn how to not only implement that change, but how can we accelerate it, and how can we sustain it? And sometimes it just doesn't seem like it's happening on its own. In fact, Andy Warhol said, you know, some people say time changes things, but you actually have to change them yourself. So I just want to commend you for being leaders in your industry and your organization and stepping up to the plate and saying, hey, I want to help. I want to help make the changes that are going to get us into our future. So with that, I'd like to just find out what are some of the changes that you're experiencing. And we're going to do a poll on this, but we have lots of changes, whether you're trying to implement a long-term 5-year strategy, or if something just happened externally or internally in your organization and now you have to do a quick fix. You know, what are some of the things that are going on specifically for you? It could be you have a new direct report, you have a new team member, it could be a new boss, you might be training people. You know, in our workforce now, unemployment is so low, it's difficult to attract the best of the best. And so you might be trying to have some sort of a hiring strategy. how about the multi-generational workforce that we're dealing with now? We have 5 different generations that are in the workforce now, and they all need to be led in different ways. So Bridget, I'm going to ask you now, what are some of the things that are popping up as far as changes that we're all going through?
So we have a few. One is we're increasing our manufacturing throughout with minimal internal staff changes.
Mm-hmm.
Another is turnover on leadership team, multiple people at one time.
Uh-huh.
And then we have another change in leadership.
Change in leadership. Okay. So yeah, those are pretty common changes that are happening, but just because they're common doesn't mean that they're easy to deal with. In fact, our job as leaders is, it's not just to initiate the change in and of itself, but as leaders, we need to be able to help others deal with that change as well. And I want to talk a little bit about this today, but we'll cover it obviously in much more detail and at a deeper level about what people experience when they're dealing with change. So Bridget, if you could go ahead, or Jen, go to the next slide. When we're dealing with change, a couple of things I'd like to differentiate between. Change is something that happens external to us, and transition is something that happens inside as a result of that change. So let's say that we'll just take a personal example. How many of us, when we get a update on our iPhone, we get that on the iPhone and we look at it and we're like, oh, not now. You know, you don't want to just deal with that change now because you don't know what's going to happen to your data, you know, how your pictures will be reorganized or whatnot. So we just resist it because it's going to be something we haven't seen before. So when change occurs, we're going from an old way to a new way. We're going from something that was to something different. We're shifting from point A to point B. It could be a process that we're going through. And what happens is that internally we have a response to that because we're going from being competent in the old way and being incompetent in the new way. So we'll have a reaction to that because the old way of doing things, we're experiencing it as a loss. So if we think about change as something we internalize and experience as a loss of competence, then we can apply this model of loss. It's an Elizabeth Kubler-Ross model of loss of a loved one, if you will. But if we apply it to change, let's see if this happens. You're going through a new process and everyone is just stopped in their tracks. They don't know what to do. They're immobilized. You have some team members who flat out deny that you're going to actually really do that new process or procedure. People can get angry about the change because they fear it. Then there's bargaining, there's workarounds, people trying to do things differently. Maybe it's a new IT system and they're looking for workarounds instead of doing the new way. Then people get depressed because they're not getting where they need to get quick enough. Then finally in that process, when we start looking more forward, there's exploration. People start seeing that it's actually going to work, that the new way is better, and then there's some acceptance. So these are typical reactive patterns to change. Next slide, please. Some of the concepts that we're going to talk about come from John Kotter. They come from William Bridges, Carrie Patterson, and Joseph Graney. These are some of the great thought leaders around change today. And this is from William Bridges, and he says that there are 3 phases during a change. One is that ending, losing, and letting go that we talked about. And if you see the timeline across the bottom, we're going to move through this. Then there's going to be the neutral zone. This is where there's people going in different directions. Some people have been trained, some people haven't. And then finally that new beginning or new process begins to emerge. So if you notice, we're in all 3 phases all the time. The greatest one that we feel at the beginning of a change is that letting go, that ending. Then the chaos starts to emerge in the neutral zone, and this is what we feel on a day-to-day basis. And then the new beginning starts to emerge. So with this phases of transition, we have some ways that we respond to that are actually considered unmanaged transition. In unmanaged transition, see if any of this sounds familiar to you, there's guilt. So as a manager, you may have to bring this new process or strategy to our team, and we feel bad about it. You know, we're sorry that we're going to have to we might even say it in a meeting, I'm sorry, or don't shoot the messenger, this is a new thing we're going to have to do. So we feel guilty about it. Then there's resentment because we have to go from the old way to the new way. I see this with physicians. They got into being a doctor because they wanted to help people, not look at a online record and look at their computer monitors. So they resent that they've had to change their practice. Then there's anxiety. And this is just that fear of the unknown. You just feel like you're not going to be able to keep up with all the changes. Then self-absorption. We feel like maybe we're the only one that can really, that's really experiencing the loss or having a hard time with it. And this creates fear and finally stress. It just gets to us. You know, we see it in the energy in our workspace. We see it in attitudes. We might even see people calling in sick saying, you know, I just can't deal with it today. So let's do another poll, shall we, Bridget? What reactive patterns have you noticed in others that you're working with? Or, you know, hey, you're experiencing it yourself right now. You can click 1, 2. I know sometimes in the workshops, people say, hey, all of it. I'm just experiencing all of it. So go ahead and vote for what you're experiencing. What are we seeing, Bridget?
So far, there's a little bit of all of them.
A little bit of all. Okay, I am not surprised. I'm not surprised.
A lot of stress.
Yeah.
Okay, let me share these results here.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you are not alone. You are not alone. So what we're going to do in this workshop is give you some strategies, tools, tactics, and things that you can do with what's going on with you. And what it's going to help you do is to not only implement change in your organization, but accelerate it, sustain it, and get people on board with you so that they'll follow you in your change initiatives. The thing that's cool about this program, and Jennifer mentioned it earlier, is that this isn't going to be just theory. When you come to the workshop, we're going to talk about what's going on that day. And we will apply these change techniques to what you're experiencing right then and there, so that by the end of the day, you're going to have an integrated action plan on how you're going to implement change in your organization. So one of the reasons I love to do these sessions is because I love to hear what you're going to do with what you learn so that you can achieve your best results. I look forward to meeting you. Thank you. Jennifer?
Thank you, Diane. That was such a great overview, and really appreciate you being here today. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay, well, and now we have the privilege from hearing from some of our alumni. So we have 2 alumni on today, and we figure who else or who better to tell you about the experience of the program than our alumni. So we have Max Clark. Max works for the California Prison Industry Authority, and he is a Prison Industry Authority Administrator. He has 21 years in state service and over 17 in a supervisory and manager role. He currently oversees the Prison Industry Authority operations at 3 state institutions. We're also joined by Jennifer Barrera. Jennifer is the Executive Vice President at the California Chamber of Commerce. She manages the Government Affairs Program, which includes managing lobbyists, policy positions, legislative strategy, and member management. And she has been with the Chamber 9 years. And Jennifer and Max are reunited today as they were both in the program this most recent spring. So welcome, Max and Jennifer.
Hello, how are you guys doing?
Great.
Hey, Jennifer. Hey, Max.
Hello, Jen.
It's so good to hear both your voices. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the first question. So I'll start with Jennifer. Jennifer, what brought you to the Executive Leadership Program?
So I was looking for a leadership course in general. I had just been recently promoted at my organization from not managing anybody to then overseeing the government affairs department, as you referenced, Jen, and then having 10 direct reports to me. And so I was looking for a leadership course kind of just to figure out how to effectively manage, and came across the UC Davis course, and it really kind of fit everything I was looking for in the sense of quality speakers, quality professors, great reviews, testimonials, and then going back to something you said earlier, the flexibility that it provided for me to allow me to still be able to work and have family life, but also kind of advance my education in the leadership role. So that's what brought me to the leadership and why I ultimately chose to go with UC Davis.
Great. Thank you, Jen. And how about you, Max?
Well, mine is kind of similar to Jennifer's. I had just recently took on a promotion, and in that promotion, I was supervising up to 32 staff, and then now it went to 60 staff, and then dealing with almost 500 offenders that I'm supervising. So it was just kind of me trying to figure out how I was going to balance the 3 institutions that I inherited, and how I was going to effectively manage this and the staff in it. So I had another colleague that was going to take this course, and he sent me information regarding the course, and then I spoke with my boss, and they said, yes, that's a good course. So I in turn decided to join the course, and I'm glad I did. It was perfect timing, and it was right. It's what I needed at the time.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. We're very thankful for the California Prison Industry Authority has been a huge advocate of our executive leadership program, and I believe they've sent a couple of you each session. So it's always a privilege to have you guys in there. And so, Max, I'm going to start with you on this one. What was most valuable in the program for you?
There was multiple things that I identified within the program, and it was and one of the things I really identified was leading as a coach, trying to frame out those difficult conversations, like you said, fierce conversations. And that's what I kind of struggle with in the past, is really kind of gearing that fierce conversations with staff and having that and making sure it doesn't get off track. And also the emotional intelligence portion of it. And then the LPI was a good eye-opener also.
So pretty much everything, Max, it sounds
pretty much
like.
Everything. It really kind of identified some things that I was struggling with and having challenges with. And it really kind of, I had to kind of turn that mirror onto myself, look at the mirror and see that I was kind of going in the wrong direction in some cases.
Yeah. And how about you, Jennifer? What was most valuable about the program for you?
Well, similarly, I thought there was a lot of great things that the program offered, but just to kind of narrow it down on a few items, the self-evaluation was significant for me to see. Not only you have to do a critique of yourself, which it wasn't easy. You have to really think about how you're operating, but also to get the perspective from the direct reports and my boss, to see their perspective on what my strengths and perhaps weaknesses were. That was really, really valuable. The coaching sessions by far were fantastic. To have that opportunity to work with those coaches on challenges that I was facing in my new role and work through some of those was really helpful, and just kind of going through the process of how they got to some of the resolutions. I mean, they're hour-long sessions with the coaches, and they were just really productive. And then also, some of the learning perspectives that I had. I mean, one of the things that I got through my coaching session and even through the course and the different professors was identifying some of the things I was dealing with, which is always providing an answer right off the bat to whoever came in. I would have the answer and give them the answer without kind of going through a deeper discussion about what was the issue, and allowing the individual to come to the conclusion by asking different questions rather than me just providing the answer. And that kind of illustrates what I think the course did for me, was changing my perspective from just managing to actually trying to be a leader and motivating others to grow and develop in their role. and helping them to do that. And so those were some of the great things that I thought. And I agree with you by far that the dinners were awesome. It was a great time to bond with the fellow colleagues in the class.
I agree.
And they were great conversations. Yeah, the food was awesome.
Yeah. Oh, good. And I appreciate that you brought up the self-assessment part of the 360. I forgot to mention that is a critical part of that 360-degree assessment, that you're actually taking some self-reflection as well on the items, and then kind of seeing, wow, how does my assessment of my leadership in these areas compare to what my manager thinks in direct reports? So thank you for addressing that, and appreciate that. So final question I have, and then I think we're going to kind of open it up in the Q&A. So for those of you on, be thinking if you have any questions for Max or Jennifer. But my final question is, how have you used it to have an impact on your organization? So either one of you, feel free to start.
You can go, Jennifer.
So I've already been able to put, I feel like, a few of the tools and strategies that I learned in the course to practice in the organization, which is kind of another benefit of the course, is that they give you these realistic tools that you can take back, and they expect you to practice and come back with feedback. And some of the things I learned through the LPI and the self-evaluation was that my team just wanted more time, my time, which is not always easy when you have a million things going on, but that they really valued kind of the one-on-one discussions and making sure I had the time. And so I've been able to rearrange schedules so that they have that time, and also that my attention is 100% on them when they're talking to me, and I'm not distracted by other things going on, which was another a learning opportunity in the course. And then the questions that I mentioned earlier, not always having to have the answer, but helping the different workers figure it out on their own, and coaching them through that just as we receive the coaching, and helping them get to the conclusion rather than me giving the answer. Those are two of probably the most ones off the top of my head that I think I've implemented and been able to utilize in my role.
That's fantastic. How about you, Max?
Yeah, with me, when I went through the course, I kind of identified my leadership style prior to this course, that I identified myself as being kind of a management. I managed like a bully, because I never really kind of listened to the staff. Sometimes I've kind of always thought about the next thing they needed to do, and the next thing, how I can solve their problems. But the leading as a coach and asking those pertinent questions, that's what I'm doing now, is kind of bringing out that their ideas and kind of utilizing those ideas. And it's worked with my staff. And at first they were kind of skeptical that I didn't change. They said it's just temporary. So, but now they see that I'm really identifying those times that I need to step back. I need to listen, not when my staff is talking, chop them up, and not chop them up, but just talk over them. So when I still do it sometimes, but I identify it, and I'm able to bring it back, and able to work with my staff and utilize some of the tools that I got from the course, is, just kind of how to address, like I said, difficult conversations, how to frame those things. Mm-hmm. And also just to just be there for the staff and help them grow. And also, just like I said, identify some of the things that when it happens, I can pull back and start going back to some of my material, and kind of look at my tools and start utilizing that.
Mm. What I love about what both of you just shared is that you've taken things and really made them your own, for your own environment, and really used the tools, and mentioned that there's practical tools. And that's really our passion, not just with this program, but my passion in developing leaders in all the programs we offer, is this isn't just about coming to a class and leaving. Our mission at UC Davis Continuing Professional Education is to transform lives through learning opportunities. And in my world, it's transforming leaders. And so what I love and appreciate about both of you, Max and Jennifer, is that I hear your leadership has been transformed, and that you have taken these concepts and tried them and found what worked for you, because it's a lot, and you really took those pieces that were important to you and valuable, and implemented them. So thank you.
Yeah. And we thank you. We really appreciate the class.
Well, and thank you. And I do just want to especially acknowledge and thank you both for taking time out of your very, very full schedules to participate and advocate for this program. And so, Bridget, are there any questions that have come through the Q&A box?
None yet, but we are waiting.
Okay.
So get those questions out.
Okay. Well, while those are coming in, I think, Bridget, why don't we kind of go to the next section? So thank you again, Max and Jennifer.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so so the last section is what if I still have questions? So we're going to give you time to use the Q&A if you have anything for Diane, Max, or Jennifer. And then Bridget is going to review some of the logistics.
Okay, so the logistics of the program is the tuition for this executive leadership program is $62.50, which includes all materials, 360 assessment, 2 sessions of coaching, one-on-one coaching, meals and parking. If you are paid and enrolled by August 22nd, there is a $300 early enrollment discount. So the total would be $59.50. Our enrollment deadline is September 10th, and there is usually there is limited space, so it typically fills up fast. So I would recommend to enroll by August 22nd.
And what I forgot to mention on this slide, Bridget, also, do you want to talk a little bit about the application?
So there is an application process. If you have any questions with that, you can always reach out to me. But an application is just kind of seeing where you're at in your leadership, if this program is a good fit for you. And once we review that, then you will be accepted into the program, and all the information then will be forwarded to you on how you can enroll, what steps you can take next.
Great, thank you. And finally, do you want to tell them about our new location?
Sure, but before that, why don't we answer 2 questions that have come in?
Oh, awesome, great.
One question is, what food is offered for dinner and lunch? That's my type of question.
That is totally your type of question, Bridget. So do you want to answer that one?
Sure. So we use a specific caterer out of Sacramento that does a wonderful job of, for our lunch and for dinner. We have varied lunches and dinners, but never, like some of our alumni have said, that was one of the highlights of the program, because the food is fantastic and the setup, and during dinner, it's a full-on dinner with dessert, wine, and we also have the caterer there to add like a service to serve everyone. So great setup. You won't be disappointed.
Yes, and Bridget does a great job of variety ordering. So there's usually a couple different kind of meats and vegetarian type things. So there's a great variety as well. What's our other question? So our other question is, how large is a typical class? That's a great question. So the maximum number of enrollments we have is 28, and oftentimes we get up to 28. Typically, we are anywhere between 20 and 28. So that is the average class size. Okay, and so our new location for UC Davis Continuing and Professional Education is at One Capitol Mall. We're all excited about this. It just, we started having our first classes this week. One Capitol Mall is in downtown Sacramento, which is next to the Tower Bridge in Old Sacramento. Beautiful location, lots of space in our classrooms, really easy to park and access our classrooms and all of that. So we are excited about that. Yes. Great. Well, if there's no other questions that have come in, I don't know, I'll check. Bridget? There's one. Okay. So are there options to continue one-on-one coaching after the program ends? Yes. Yes, absolutely. That would be on your own with your coach. If you really felt a connection with your coach and want to continue that, those coaches are available to you for a fee, of course. Then they all have their own rates and packages that they sell. Yeah. Okay, well, Bridget and I will hang on for a couple minutes just to make sure we answer any other questions that come through. But with that, we really appreciate your participation in our information session today and hope that you learned a little bit more about this program. Again, I really appreciate Diane, Max, and Jennifer being here and sharing a little bit of their expertise and their experience. And we're grateful that they volunteered their time to be here today for this great program to tell you more about it. And as Bridget said, feel free to reach out to either one of us with any information or any questions, and we'd be happy to answer them. And enjoy this beautiful sunny afternoon.
Okay, I have a question. How long does it take to find out if we are a good fit for the program once we've submitted the application?
So I am the one that reviews the applications. Bridget usually gets those to me within a couple days, and I have a pretty quick turnaround. It's usually 1 to 2 business days that I get that back.
Please feel free to type in the Q&A box.
Okay. Bridget and I will hang on here another minute, and then we are going to probably go ahead and end our session. And again, we're able to answer any questions via email or phone, either one of us. So feel free to contact us. Bridget, I do see there's a question in the Q&A. Do you want to just type the answer for that one?
Sure.
Great.
Okay, I have one more question. Do you allow makeup classes?
Oh, sorry, Bridget. I thought you were going to answer that through the Q&A. Yes, we do allow makeup classes. So when you're unable to, you're able to attend the class at a future program date. And we make you aware of when those dates are. Okay, I think we'll go ahead and end our session for today. And again, thank you all for your participation. And if there's any other questions, feel free to reach out to Bridget and I directly.
Thank you all.